How are you? You well?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Yeah, you?
Good. Yes, I'm good, thanks.
Wonderful.
Been a good day so far?
Yeah, it's been quite eventful.
Eventful?
Yeah.
Good. What's your name?
Jordan Benson.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jordan. Thanks for coming in. What piece did you have for us today?
I've got a monologue from What Wonderful Man Charlie Brown. I'm playing Charlie Brown, and then I will be singing Winky Wonky Donkey.
Winky Wonky Donkey?
The Wonky Donkey.
I don't know that one.
The third thing I'd like to point out is how I entered the room. When I entered the room, I was myself. I wasn't putting on a character on trying to impress anyone. I simply entered how I would normally and started a conversation with the panellists exactly how I would. This shows them who I am, the exact character that I am, and the personality that I have. It also allows them to understand what it's like to work with me outside of the audition environment, knowing how I came in is exactly what they'd be getting when they were working with me. Due to the nature of this audition, it was important that we researched our own song and our own monologue to perform for the characters. I was also asked at the end of the audition if I thought that the monologue and song that I chose were the correct ones for the characters. This meant that I could have come up with multiple options and chose the weaker of the few. If that was the case, at least I know then what I needed to do to work on.
You've got like some adults stood up, maybe holding children as well. So they're kind of everywhere. It's not around you, it's just in front of you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Brilliant. Alright, whenever you're ready.
A mistake that I made here was throwing my pen off my ear. I noticed halfway through that I'd left it on and I didn't want to do my entire audition with this on and decided to step to the side and take it out of my ear and throw it onto my bag. I was told later by the panellists that this was a very unprofessional thing to do and that if I'd just asked them if they could take the pen out and put it on my floor, they'd have been happy to oblige with that. While it may seem like a minor problem, this was actually a really big one. It shows to the panellists that I may be unprofessional, and if I'm like this in the audition, what would it be like when I'm actually rehearsing with them?
I think lunchtimes have to be about the worst time of day for me. Sitting here all alone. Of course, the mornings aren't pleasant either. Waking up and wondering if people will care about me if I don't arrive. And then of course there's the night. And laying in bed and thinking of all the mistakes that I've made and all the mistakes I made the day before.
I'd like to take a moment to point out that during this part of the performance, a staff member had walked in behind me and I could hear them walking around. I didn't let this put me off though, however. I know that in many situations, stuff can happen on stage that is outside of your control, such as perhaps an audience member getting up and leaving or causing a scene. A lot of the times, it's appropriate to stop. However, sometimes it's important that you carry on and act as if nothing has happened, and I think that this scene right here shows exactly the kind of professionalism I can hold.
I'm a coward. I'm such a coward that she won't even look at me. Why won't she look at me? I don't think she's ever looked at me.
Like I mentioned earlier in the written part, I felt as if this monologue restricted me and prevented my movements, something that was key to this. It was involving the audience, and being sat down like this, I couldn't do that. One of the bits of feedback I get in a moment is that I should focus on certain individuals and try and let them in. And this reinforces the criticism I have on this monologue.
And like really trying to engage a couple of different children. You're asking them. You really want them to answer. Let's see you believe that you can get the answer from them, just so you can see that like really engaging with the audience. It was nice though. It's nice. Maybe just make physicalisation a little bigger that you're playing to, and your projection, because you're out in the natural environment as well, and we're going to lose the text. It doesn't bounce off the walls as it would in here. Wonderful. So let's see you project a little bit more, and just bigger physicality for the people at the back. Great. Thanks, Johnny.
I think lunchtime has to be about the worst time for me. Sitting here all alone. Of course, the mornings aren't pleasant either. Waking up and thinking, would people care if I didn't come in? Then there's the nights. Laying in bed thinking of all the mistakes that I've made and all the mistakes I made the day before. There's the red-haired girl over there eating a sandwich. I wonder what she'd say if I asked if I could sit with her.
Good, thanks, John. That's perfect.
Wonderful.
Bro. And your song?
Wonderful.
Whenever you're ready.
I was walking down the road and I saw a donkey. He only had 3 legs.
In contrast to my monologue, my song allowed me to include the audience. Bearing in mind that the audience are little kids, their attention spans are very short and they need a lot of energy to involve them. So by being able to dance around like this, walk about, point and include certain children, it really allows me to draw them in and even get more into character.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Do you have any questions?
About more like where would we be touring doing this show? Would it be in a set location or would it be moving around?
The final point I'd like to make is when I was asked if I have any questions, I immediately jumped in and said one. This shows the panellists that I'm really interested to find out more about the job and shows that I am interested in doing it. If I have this kind of charisma, I'm more than likely to be picked over other people who don't have any questions or any knowledge on this and don't want to learn more about the opportunity they've given.
No worries, John. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers.